Tav Kufte Zayin Amud Aleph, 13 lines from the top. Iboilahu, one has the following shot. Agilyain Meshel Sefer Torah, the blank portions of the Sefer Torah. At this point, we're assuming that it means both the margins, the top, the bottom, the ends, and even the spaces between the lines and underneath the words. Matzil Noisim Ibnei Adleiko, Ein Matzil Noisim Ibnei Adleiko. Do they go into this same category as we were discussing, that they can be saved on Shabbos from the fire, or not? Do they also have Kedusha and they can be saved, or not? Tashma, let's bring a raya from the following. Sefer Torah Shabola, a worn-out Sefer Torah. Im yesh boy lelakesh ma'inem v'chomesh oisios, if you can collect and gather up 85 letters, Kigoin Parshas Vahi Ben Soya Ha'oran, like we find the Parsha Vahi Ben Soya, which has 85 letters, then Matzilin, you can save it from the fire. V'im Lav Ein Matzilin, but if not, if you don't have that number of letters, then you cannot save it from the fire. So what do we see? We see that even if you have the blank areas, but if you don't have the oisias, you can't be matzil. Well, if you're saying that you can save it on account of the Gillion, so even if you don't have 85 letters, but you have the blank portions, why wouldn't that be a reason to save it? Elamai, doesn't that show you that the Gilyonis do not have the Kedusha, and you cannot save it on account of the Gilyonis? Where it says, no, bol is shiny. If it's worn out, then it's different. That we don't have a shayla. Once it's worn out, it loses the Kedusha. Our shaila is if it's not worn out. Tashma, let's bring a raya. Sefer Torah shenimchak, if it was erased. Im yesh v'lelakesh men v'chomesh oisios, then if you can gather 85 letters, Kigoin Parshas Vahi Ben Soya Ha'oran Matzilin, then you can save it from the fire. V'im Lav Ein Matzilin. But if not, you can't. V'amai, why not? Teb Glei Mishum Gilyon Didei. Why can't you save an account of the blank areas that's been erased? Doesn't that show you that the Gillion doesn't have Kedusha? More answers. In the place where there was writing, then once that writing has been erased, the parchment loses Kedusha. The place underneath the letters only had the Kedusha on account of the letters that were written on top of it. Once the oisias become erased, they also lose their Kedusha. So that's not my shaila. It's only Kaddish on account of the letters, the oisias. Once that's erased, then they lose the Kedusha as well. My shaila is shalmala shalmata shbein parsha leparsha shbein daf ledaf shabtchilas sefer shabasefer sefer. My shaila is on the blank areas, on top, above the writing, below the writing, between a parsha and a parsha, between the two dapim, and the beginning and the end of the sefer. That's my shaila. More of a typical mishum hahu. Well, why don't you say that? Fine, it should be saved on account of that. So why do we need 85 letters? If it's a sefer, the sefer presumably has margins. So even if it doesn't have 85 letters, if you're suggesting that on account of the margins at the top and the bottom, at the beginning, at the end, etc., it should have kedusha, it should be saved. So even if the letters are erased, it should be saved. The more answers, the guy is Ushti. Is talking when those parts of it were cut off and removed. So it doesn't have the margins. And therefore, it can't be saved on account of that. Therefore, you need 85 oisias. What about the blank areas between the lines? Why don't you say that you can save it on account of the spaces between each line? Now that can't be cut out, can't be talking where that's cut, because it's talking about it. There's a sefer over here. We're talking about a sefer, and if it's cut between the lines, it's just strips. So obviously we're not talking about that such a scenario. We're talking about a sefer Torah. So why doesn't it have Kedusha on account of the spaces between the lines? The Rashba answers that those spaces are necessary for the writing. It's just like we say that the the blank areas under the writing only have Kedusha on account of the writing of the Oisius. The space between the lines, that's in the same Darig, the same Madrega, and therefore it only has Kedusha on account of the Oisius, and if the Oisius are Nimchak, it also loses its Kedusha. But the margins weren't there in order to facilitate the writing. They were there to facilitate the Sefer, the Shem Sefer Shabbat, the Yafi of the Sefer, the Tzur of the Sefer. So the Shaila is on those margins where writing was never meant to be on them or to facilitate the lines of the writing. They were part of the Sefer. The Sefer itself, not is the Ksav, do they have Kedusha? And even if the Oises are erased, perhaps you can save it on account of those margins. Those margins were never meant to write on or to facilitate the writing itself. So perhaps you can save it on account of those margins over there. So Shema, let's bring a raya. Gilyanim shel mal v'shel matam. The blank portions on top and the bottom. Shem parsha leparsha, bein daf ledaf. Shebetchil sefer sefer metam nasi yadayim. The gzera that the Rabbanon, one of the Yudches gzeras, that the person who comes into contact with the sefer, it's metam the yadayim. It's also metam the yadayim on the margins. So lachar, you see that the margins do have kedusha because it's metam the yadayim. Where it says, no, that's not a raya, because Dilma Agav Sefer Torah is shiny. When the margins are together with a Sefer Torah that's not erased, so therefore they would have Kedusha on account of the Sefer. Our shaila is, do the margins have Kedusha, can they be saved even if the Ksav is erased, even if it's Nimchak? That's our shaila. So Shema, bring a raya from the following, Gilyanim v'Sifri Minim. The margins and Sifri Minim, there's different opinion in the Rishonim what Sifri Minim mean, whether they were written for Minim, which is mashma, even if a Yid writes it, that's how Tais is mashma, the Ram is mashma, that the Minim wrote them. And they write it without Kedusha, they write it, even the Shem Hashem, they don't write it with the Kedusha of Hashem and for years Hashem. So therefore, these Sifri Minim, Eimatzil Neis B'nei Adlaika. You are not allowed to save them. You let them be burnt, them and even the Shem Hashem that's written on it, because it doesn't have Kedusha, it's written by Minim. My love, Gilyonim, the Sefer Torah, so it says, Hagilyonim, the Sefer Minim. So what are these two items? Does it not mean the Gilyonim of a Sefer Torah and Sefer Minim, two separate things? And therefore you see that the Gilyonim cannot be saved from the lake. Where it says like Gilyain and Sifrei Minim. What it means is the blank portions of Sefer Minim, the margins of this form if Sifrei Minim. For Gemara, Hakabi, that's what it means. Hashta Sifrei Minim Gufay ein Matzilim. You're not matzil the Sifrei Minim themselves. Gilyain Miboya. Do you have to tell me that the Gilyan, certainly the Gilyan, are not matzil, you're not even matzil the Sefer of the Minim that the Minim wrote? No, Hachikamer, what it means to say is Sefer Minim, Haran Gilgil Yainim. The Sefer Minim are like the blank portions. And blank portions, the way Rashi explains it, blank portions that nothing was ever written on. They're like, not margins of the Sefer Torah. The Sefer Minim are like, it's like a piece of parchment that nothing was written on it. It has no Kedusha, and even no Askaras. So now we happen to mention the Sifrei Minim. The Gemara is not going to have a discussion on the Sifrei Minim. So this shaila that we have about the Gilyonim, the Gemara didn't answer. But now we mentioned Sifrei Minim, we're going to have a discussion on Sifrei Minim. Gufa, Gilyonim Sifrei Minim, Ein Matzil Noisim B'nei Adlaika. They can't be served from the lake. Rav Yesi Aimer, Rav Yesi says, Bechol, if it's not Shabbos, Bechol, Kaider says, Skara Shabahem, you cut out the Shem Hashem, V'gainsem, and you hide them away, you bury them, and Vashar, Sarfin, and you burn the rest of them. So you cut out the area where it's the Shem Hashem, and the rest of it is burnt. That's what Rabbi Yesi says. Amr B'Tarfan, he said, Akapach has been he said, in a lotion of like a curse, that he said, he'll bury his sons, She'im Yavo Liyadi, Shani Esr Vaisim, to like show his resolve. He said that if he ever got those form, came into his hands, Shani Esr Vaisim, Versas Korash Behem, that he would burn them and the Shem Hashem and the Shem Hashem that's in it, because the Shem Hashem in those form have no kedusha, and he would burn them because these are sifrei aminim, and they bring people to be attached to the big courses. Shafilu adam roidav acharav lahorga. He said that even if a person was running and to kill him, but nachash ras lakish, or a snake was to bite him, nichlas lebeis avodah zara, be preferable to enter into a base of avodah zara to save himself. Vein nichlas lebatein shalela, but not to go into the houses of minim. Why? Why are the minim even worse than the avodah zara? Because shalom makir v'kaifrim. Because the minim, they're yidden who are minim apikarsim, so they know of Hashem, and they're rebelling against it. They deny it. But avodah zara don't know Hashem, so they're not rebelling against Hashem per se. They don't know Hashem, but the minim are mardim. They're rebelling against Hashem. They deny the existence, even though they know the existence. And referring to these minim, that's what the Novi says when he says that you behind the delis and the mezuzah, you hid behind the door, zichroinech, your memory, which the Mashal learns it really should be zichroini, my memory. You hide me, you know you're aware of me. You know me, but you pretend like you don't know me. You put it behind the door on the mezuzah. Amr Yishmael Kal V'Chaymer says a Kal V'Chaymer that they should be burnt, and even the Shem Hashem, it should be burnt from their Sforim. Umal also Shalom Beni Shlish Amra Taira Shemish Nuchla B'Kedusha Yimocha Al Hamayim Madach. The Torah says to make peace, Shalom Bayis, between a husband and wife. It says my name which written in Kedusha should be erased in the waters. The Mesoita, where they erased the waters that Shem Hashem was written on. These people who cause jealousy and anger and machlokes between Yisrael and Avim Shemayim, Halachas Kama V'Kama, that the Shem Hashem that's written and their sforim should be erased. Dovid, and referring to them is what Dovid HaMelech said, Haloi Misanecha Hashem Esna, those who hate you, I hate. It was kamemecha as kaitit, and those who rise up against you, I will start up with them. Tachlas sina senesim lo'evim hayuli. I hated them with the tachlas of sin, of tachlas of hate. They're my enemies. So therefore, we have to destroy any zecher of what they have of their svorim, including the Shem Hashem. And just like we don't save their sforim from the dleika, similarly, we don't save them from any other things that might destroy them. So similarly, we don't save them from anything that might destroy them. So Taisus speak out, and there's really difference in the Rishonim how to learn this. This is not going according to Rabbi Tarfon, because according to Rabbi Tarfon, then we say that you have to burn these. So certainly you're not matzal them from any other calamity. It's not only a fire. You don't save them from anything. So what we mean to say is that you might think, however, that we don't save them from a dleika, that the Rabbanan said we don't save them from a dleika. You might think that that's only from a fire that you don't save it from, because you have the general concern and restriction on saving things from a fire, because a person might come and put out the fire. But you might think them from other calamities that you would save them from, where you don't have that concern. No, you're not matriach on Shabbos to save them from anything, even from these other calamities. That's one way of learning it. Another way of learning it is that it's going Lafi Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yossi says, "B'chol kodesh eskarish ben v'goyin zem v'shar sar." On the weekday, you cut out the Shem Hashem, and you burn the rest of them, and the rest of them are burned. So he says that you burn out, you take them and you burn out. Now it says that's as far as burning it, but if it's not, you're not burning it, if you're not destroying it, it's not through your hands. But in the case of where there's a calamity, there's a fire, etc., this type of calamity, then you don't even take it, and you don't even take it to save the Azkoros. Even though Rav Yossi said that there is a fire, you remove rather during the week, you remove the Shem Hashem and you burn them. That's only where you're burning them, where you're destroying it b'yadayim. But if you're not doing it b'yadayim, if there's a flood that falls on it, or there is something that collapses on it, a building that collapses on it, then you don't do anything. You don't remove the Shem Hashem, because here you're not destroying them. So even according to Rav Yossi, who says you burn them, but you remove the Shem Hashem, that's only where you're burning them. When you're not doing b'yadayim, you let it be. And let it be destroyed. What about the books of Be'avidan? Do you save them from the fire or not? So these are books that were not done by the minim. They're not like the Sifrei Minim. These were books by so-called philosophers. They used to have debates and debate on the philosophical issues, and they used to hold their debates in different halls, town halls, so to speak. These Sfarim, what about these Sfarim? If they write down, and they write down psukim, etc., can you save them from a fire on Shabbos or not? In Velav Raf B'Yada, it was not clear. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. It wasn't clear about the matter. So, talking about this Be'avidan, Rav lo yazal Be'avidan. He would not go to these debates. V'kol shkein leBei Nitzrafi, and certainly he would not go to Bei Nitzrafi because they were held in a base of Avodah Zarah. Shmuel leBei Nitzrafi lo yazal, leBe'avidan he did go. So, with the issue whether to go or not to the Be'avidan is because it might be a sakana. There might be a sakana if they lose the debate, then they might endanger the lives of the Talmidei Chachamim. So, to the base of Avodah Zarah, when debates were held in a base of Avodah Zarah, they wouldn't go. When it was held not in the base of Avodah Zarah, it would depend on the situation if there was a sakana or not. He said, why don't you go? They said to him, why don't you come with us to debate? He said, there's a palm tree on the way, and it's hard for me to travel. It makes the road uneven because the roots make it uneven. So in Accra, they said, we'll uproot it, we'll remove it. So he said, he said, it still will be difficult. There'll be a hole in the road where you uproot the tree. It'll be difficult for me to travel over there. So he wanted to just to push them away because he was afraid that Sakanas Tafashas, if he would go there and they would lose the debate, he would put in Sakana. Mar Bar Yosef Amar, Ana Minayo Ana, V'lo Mistafina Minaya. Mar Bar Yosef said, I'll go to the debate with them. I'm on good terms with them. I'm friendly with them, and I'm not scared. Zimna Chana Azal Boy Sakuna. One time he went and he won the debate. They lost, and he was in a Sakana. So you see, even when it appears to be that they're on good terms, it's still a sakana, and therefore not to go.